Well, I guess this is what happens when you try one too many knockoff amusement parks. Guys, today we're going to be talking about the Wonderland Amusement Park, which was scheduled to open just outside of Beijing, China, in the Changping district in 1998. It's officially labeled as an unfinished amusement park project that was designed to be the largest amusement park in Asia, having to cover 120 acres or 49 hectares. Construction stopped in 1998 following financial problems with local officials, while a 2008 attempt to start construction again also failed. So they originally halted construction in 1998. The area sat vacant for 10 years, almost half built. Even some of the structures basically fully built. You can see it's a pretty crazy thing. You know, the idea of a construction site going abandoned is always eerie and unique to me because it's never been open. None of the stuff has ever been used, but it's still abandoned. It's just such a weird aspect of an abandoned place. Now, the site featured a number of abandoned structures, including the framework of a castle-like building and medieval themed outer buildings. Land was reclaimed by local farmers to grow their various crops while the site was abandoned. And there's some remarkable photos of crops coming up and growing right next to this massive abandoned knockoff Disney amusement park with a castle. It's just such a weird contrast. People have reported when visiting the site that sometimes there would still be parking attendants at the site's parking lot, presumably to tend to onlookers and curious sightseers that came to visit. Well, that's a weird thing. So it's an abandoned site, but there's still parking attendants there? I mean, they must get a lot of visitors if that's the case. And the abandonment of such a massive construction project raised concerns about the existence of a property bubble in China. The incomplete and abandoned structures were demolished in May of 2013, leaving no hope for the abandoned park to ever be finished. There is still one main castle that you can see here that is still alive and kicking to this day. It's just a massive concrete shell. That was a photograph from 2023, May of 2023, but pretty much everything else is gone. The main reason they tried to kickstart construction in the mid-2000s was because of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. They wanted to take advantage of that and finish this park. However, it was not meant to be. After disputes between officials and farmers, the site was officially given up on, and they did begin to demolish most of the buildings. And this does remind me of another location that's kind of just outside of Beijing. It's basically a knockoff Paris. Now, I wouldn't say the knockoff Paris city in China is necessarily a failure because they have had some people migrating to it, but originally, certainly, it was basically a ghost town, and they just rebuilt the Eiffel Tower. They had the exact same architecture design in the streets. I mean, it's just China completely copying another city. I guess it's interesting, but it's just kind of a strange thing to see. And you can see just some of the photos of the abandoned, unfinished Disney theme park. I wanted to find some photos of its construction in the mid to late 1990s. Unfortunately, I'm not sure a single photo of the actual construction being done exists because I wanted to try and find just rare photos. But like the closest one that I got was in 2010 when you could still see the main building. That building since has been demolished, but you can just see kind of the area and where it was supposed to be and all of the inner workings of the potential theme park. It was going to be huge, the biggest amusement park in Asia, and just basically just like a complete knockoff Disney World. And in doing some research on this abandoned theme park, I was able to find this. It is a massive ghost town of abandoned mansions in China. You can find these all over the place. China has just such a massive population. It's not very hard to find defunct housing developments. If this was somewhere in the United States, certainly it would be very popular and pretty crazy to see all of those giant homes completely abandoned, during construction, but in China it's a little bit more realistic. These were called the state guest mansions, and they were envisioned to be luxury homes for the upper crust of society. Now their only residents are herders of cattle and the occasional adventure explorers meandering. And the farmers in China have actually built around these abandoned mansions. You can see in between two of them a makeshift pen for cattle and other farm animals. Local farmers have also begun plowing the land between the villas for future crops. Would-be garages of the abandoned mansions are now repurposed as storage and hay bales. The homes reportedly would have sold for millions if they had been complete. It is believed that official corruption is to blame, and funding for the project was cut when the government began cracking down on uncontrolled developments. And the interior of these homes is actually developed, which really surprised me considering the state of the exterior of the homes. You would have thought the interior would be completely hollowed out and really not designed, but no, there is designs on the interior with chandeliers, different wood paneling. There is also the abandoned Disney-like mini mansions. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of these. They are pretty popular when it comes to abandoned places. These are located in Turkey. Located near the Black Sea is a town full of half-finished, fully abandoned mini castles, 587 to be exact. Now, the cost of these ranged anywhere from around $350K to $500K, which seems relatively cheap, although it is located in Turkey. Imagine one of those going up in the United States. How much would it cost to build one of those? Well, I guess it depends where you're building it. If it's in Chicago, it's going to be definitely multi-millions. If it's in, maybe a rural area, you could get away with $500,000. Either way, this mini Disney castle setup reminds me a lot of the neighborhoods in Dubai, where all of the luxury houses are designed the exact same. Construction on this started relatively recently, just back in 2014, and it was expected to be completed in 2018. Imagine if it actually got completed and we got to see all of these mini Disney castles. It's funny, you think of Disney World and then all of the crap around the world abandoned. You've got the abandoned Disney amusement park, which was never completed. You've got these abandoned Disney castles, which are half built. So half of this stuff can't even get off the ground. The reason this development went kaput was because the developers were forced to declare bankruptcy. Now, as the building of the mini castles happened, locals became enraged with both the aesthetic of the homes and the business practices of the developers. According to the local news, many were frustrated that the castles didn't resemble anything in the area. A lawsuit against the developers also claimed the company destroyed trees and harmed the environment. Turkey's economy then struggled in the years after the project started, and developers soon incurred $24 million in debt. With a combination of bad choices and bad timing, the project is very unlikely to be resumed, especially based on the current status of the homes. They're not in very good shape now at this point, being abandoned over 5 years. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. That was just kind of an abandoned place I wanted to talk about, and it brought me to a few other abandoned places, 2 different ones in China and then one in Turkey, the main one being the abandoned amusement park that is almost fully demolished at this point outside of the one remaining castle, kind of like a skeleton concrete castle. Everything else is gone, but that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.